I've been wondering since these strikes began why we haven't been focusing more on the Gulf of or Strait of Hormuz. And I've been really concerned about it. And then I started thinking about how President Trump has been talking about it and how he's been kind of like talking about the responsibilities of these other countries who rely probably more on the strait being open, who are supposedly our allies, to pitch in on the effort. And so I was wondering if perhaps if this becomes a war of attrition, there would be a great advantage in having kind of more of a coalition, cooperatively keeping the strait open so that the global economy doesn't get, hit so hard. And then this war we can kind of be at a more consistent pace in terms of like keeping up the efforts to do a regime change. I think the cost of doing a regime change with the Gulf closed is very high. I don't know if you remember the second Gulf War where there was a lot of maneuvering to try to get a coalition together to help these, so it wasn't a unilateral strike by the US. We tried to get a kind of a global coalition to get involved with the Gulf War. And I'm wondering if this was a tactic from the beginning in order to kind of get these other countries involved. What do you think of that theory?
I mean, you mean President Trump calling out these countries or the
Well,
whole
I'm wondering if
territory?
the reason we hadn't focused so much on the Strait and why we allowed those mines to get planted and,
Oh,
and all
well,
these
I don't
things
know
to
about
happen.
that.
What
I don't know about that because it's actually quite easy to. Well, I mean, they didn't close it. They still allow the area between Larak Island and the Qeshm Island. That area is open because you can't close the Strait of Hormuz because then the Islamic Republic will go bankrupt itself.
Right.
So, but the part that they did close, it's just so easy to do it. You just throw like even if you manage to get like 5 to 10 mines there, then it's closed. And then even if you say like we have some drones, we might use them, it might hit you. Effectively you have just controlled the entire area. It doesn't even have to hit. It doesn't even like how do you stop that? How do you stop the idea like we have some drones, we might come to your direction, might hit your ship and might not. Like commercial ships are very very risk averse. They're very risk averse. So how are like if you had a plan, like the only plan is regime change. The only way to do this is regime change. And also, by the way, talking about a coalition, the UAE is now at the United Nations trying to come up with a resolution to have a coalition to protect the Strait of Hormuz. And guys, keep an eye and on whether or not China and Russia will veto that. Would they abstain or veto or not? Because, or if they even vote for it. Because if they don't, even if they just don't veto it, that means that Russia and China have completely abandoned the Islamic Republic. That would be so interesting to see what happens with that. Yeah. But does that answer your question? Because, like, I don't think this was, I think that um, there wasn't a plan to just allow the Islamic Republic to do this because there's almost impossible to stop them unless you do regime change. The only
Okay.
way to open the yeah, does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And Goldie, do you agree? Like, I think like as long as you have the Islamic Republic, the Hormuz Strait is, no matter how many coalitions you have and how many countries get involved in trying to open the Strait of Hormuz, because it's so easy to close it, the only way to open the Strait of Hormuz is to do regime change.
Jeffrey and Ali put twos in the chat, but try to be quick, please.
So very, very accurate assessment on the ability to close the Strait of Hormuz. Commercial shipping is very much risk averse. They're also very soft targets. In regards to Sadato question, yeah, I mean, there is an issue, right? I mean, it's not like we're not fragmenting NATO. That said, the fact that Western European nations that are part of NATO, specifically places like Great Britain and France that have not decided to be so forthcoming in assisting us, ensuring the Strait of Hormuz, securing the Strait of Hormuz, versus Japan. I mean, those countries, this administration is going to remember who helped and did what. So, like, Japan is very much in Donald's good book, no doubt about it. Right? I can say with a very high degree of certainty because, like, the Prime Minister of Japan was very much supportive of our efforts and was sending, I think, correctly, a mine like clearing ship, and many of that is the reason we need that is because the previous administration decommissioned like 16 of our mine clearing ships. That's why we need to have our allies there. Just kind of add that as a broader context. There's a reason Donald said NATO treated us so unfairly. Members of NATO. I mean, he's not talking about Central and Eastern European countries. They backed us up. Western European countries, some of them, he's not happy about them for good reason.
Right. And Ali, quickly.
A really simplified way you can think about this is that with the strait closed, it hurts everyone. It hurts everyone around the world. But the US is largely insulated because we export a lot of oil and we export a lot of other stuff that comes out of the strait, like liquid natural gas or nitrogen, etc. So we're going to essentially be underwater, but everyone else is going to be drowning. So you can think about it like that.
Yeah, that might be true for the U.S. as a whole. But the problem is that people are going to feel it at the pump and at the grocery store, and the political cost associated with that is something that you can't get away from.